Hello, and welcome to the second part of the offer negotiation tips or strategies that I want to share with you. In this video, what I will do is I will go over some of the examples on the Excel that I put together for you, and we'll walk through some of the components of the offers that you may receive. And I'll focus obviously on the ones that I am more familiar with, which is Amazon and Facebook, and and give you that perspective. All right, let's take a look at the spreadsheet with some of the typical offers that you may expect from Amazon or Facebook. And a lot of the fan companies or top tech companies have similar components in their offers. They will have slightly different structures, obviously, the vesting schedules, etc., but the components roughly going to be very, very similar. So like in this case, we're talking about the SD level 5 or SD2 at Amazon, which is a seasoned engineer, is not a senior engineer, according to Amazon. Although expectations of an SD2 at Amazon are often translated to top senior engineers at regular organizations that are non-tech. Anyway, for an SD2, you will expect a base compensation between 160 to 185. Again, depends on the market where you are. New York and San Francisco obviously is going to be very different versus some of the rural areas. Although, I don't think they're doing a lot of remote positions right now because of the return to office policy that kicked in a few months ago. Nevertheless, so SD2 is the backbone of software development at Amazon. This is those engineers built most of the features, so majority of the work is done by the SD2s. Obviously, there's a lot of SD1s, and then there's a lot of the SD3s, but the backbone of engineering development the organizations SD2s. Yeah, very high bar, and obviously the compensation sort of reflects that. The equity component could be anywhere between 200 to 450. Obviously, it depends on how well you negotiated, what other things you had to leave on the table to make that transition to Amazon, and also the market that you're in. The vesting schedule for Amazon is usually 5% after the first year, 15% after the second year, and then it's going to be 20% after every 6 months. So by the end of year 4, all of your initial stock grant should be fully vested. You may expect additional refresher grants. They're highly based on your individual performance. And I'll explain that a little bit later. The sign-on bonus at Amazon is slightly different than like the performance bonus or sign-on bonuses elsewhere. It is usually to compensate for that lower sort of vesting percentage of your equity component in the first and the second year, and is roughly about maybe 70 to 100% of your year 3 sort of vesting schedule. So again, it depends on a lot of different factors, but this is how it's typically structured. Also, this is the component that's probably the easiest to negotiate, right? When you are considering the offer, because it doesn't really push your compensation outside of the bands, and it also depends on a lot of the personal situations that you can explain easily, that you have to make the adjustments, maybe like different family arrangements, maybe it's the relocation assistance, additional compensation, etc. So there's a lot of different things that you can leverage in order to negotiate that particular component. Well, the base salary is very, very tightly coupled to your level. The sign-on bonus is not as tightly coupled. It's still coupled to a degree, but not as much. Obviously, there's relocation assistance. It's very good between for most of those top tech companies, and they're very, very similar. What the different is the budget that you get for relocation assistance between different levels. So the higher level, obviously, the more budget you get. And the other thing is with Amazon, if you apply for a different job, for a job in a different geographical area from where you are, even if you're working with an Amazon, if it's been over 2 years since you since you were sponsored for the previous relocation, they will actually pay for relocation assistance as well. So assuming the role does have that in the budget. So not all the roles do have relocation assistance, but usually anything level 6 and above do have that budget. Level 5 or lower, level 5 may or may not, and level 4 very rarely has a significant relocation assistance package. So they may give you some sort of sign-on bonus to compensate for relocation assistance, but yeah, usually it's not a full sort of relocation package. And so the total compensation for level 5 is, or it could be anywhere between 250 to 290 per year. So what I did here is I kind of broke it down year by year, what it will be on the offer approximately if you have those numbers, let's say 170 base, and then 250 RSUs, and then maybe roughly like 87 sign-on bonus for the first year and 63 for the second year. But your actual compensation year by year may be very different. It's going to depend on your personal performance. Very highly depends on that. And then where you start your employment relative to the performance review cycle. So assuming your performance review cycle is going to be somewhere in the middle on your first year, right? And so you may expect a very little pay raise. They don't usually give pay raise in the first year, but if you were eligible for the performance review cycle, they may bump it. And again, if it's out of the sort of the median within that compensation band, they may adjust it as well. So here I kind of like put a 1%. And so after first year, let's say going into the second year, your base salary is going to be 171. And you should expect with Amazon that your compensation should continue to grow over the years, assuming you maintain meets or exceeds performance expectation. Even after the end of the year 4, you have cliff in because essentially you no longer have the initial RSU grant. If your performance was exceeds or redefines a role model, you should expect significant refresher grants and or promotions to next level where your compensation by, let's say, end of year 5 is going to be higher than what you were expecting it to be when you first joined the company, right? So anyway, obviously, you get that 5% pay is going to be into your second year, right? And then 15 is going to be into your third year. So I can adjust for that as well. So going into your second, after the end of the second year, your compensation is roughly 278 versus 270 in the offer. And then it continues to go up higher. And I'm starting to add those RSU grants, and they typically vest like 50. So they usually come with like a 2-year term where the first 50% vests after the first year and the second 50% after the second year. And again, depending on your performance and level, those can be significantly different. So if you are in the role model, you can get almost a double in your refresher grant versus like meets expectations, right? If you are get promoted to a different level, those are usually like between level 5 and level 4, those are usually 50% higher. Between level 6 and level 7, they could be like 100% higher, right? So as opposed to let's say getting a 40,000 refresher grant, you may get an 80,000 refresher grant, which will roughly be 40 and 40, right? For the first and second year after you got it. Anyway, so uh, people who work hard and have really good performance within those companies tend to get much higher compensation than what they've seen on the original offer. All right, so um, level 6 obviously is going to be higher pay range. The base salary you should expect anywhere between 180 to like 210 or 220. I just helped an individual recently, and we were able to negotiate a much higher uh, base than the traditional base, and then overall total compensation was significantly higher than what was in the original offer. Again, like if you do want that personalized sort of advice and consultation, please sign up for the courses that I offer for interview training, and I can help you out with the individually with the negotiating your offer components, obviously for additional price, and we can discuss that as well. But anyway, the the RSU component for level 6 could be anywhere between 400 to 700 over the 4-year period. And the sign-in bonus obviously is going to be a lot higher. Usually, again, it's to compensate for having a lower vesting percentage in the first and second year from your RSU grants. And then the total compensation for level 4 could be between 3 to 500. But if your performance is significantly better than the performance of an average engineer at that level, you can actually expect a much higher compensation over the years. And it's very rare, but sometimes could go all the way to like $600,000. And then also if it's in the premium market, can be even higher. All right, let's take a look at Meta or Facebook. Overall, somewhat very similar to Amazon. The two main differences is that their vesting schedule is usually every quarter. You get a percentage, so your RSU grant at the new hire, yes, it vests over the 4 years, but it's split in equal increments for every quarter. You do get a performance-based bonus. Don't expect to get 100% of that bonus in the first year. And if your performance doesn't meet the expectations, usually it's a lower, much lower than like 50% of whatever that maximum is. So let's say, because it happens every 6 months. So let's say your offer says it's 20% of your base pay for the year, right? So for the first 6 months, it's going to be obviously 10%. If you meet all of the expectations, right? And go above in some of the areas. And then if you mostly meet expectations, expect that to be somewhere in the range, like 60 to 70%, which is where a lot of the individuals fall into. And then if you don't meet the expectations in many of the areas, you should expect zero from your bonus. But on the other hand, if you exceed expectations, if you redefine the expectations for that level, you could expect like double, triple of that number. So as opposed to like 10% for that, whatever that 6 months evaluation period, you can get like 20 or maybe even 30%, right? In addition, VP at Facebook, for some of the notable achievements that have significant impact to the organization, they have this spot spot bonus where they can offer like a one-time cash payment to one of the individuals for significant breakthroughs or something that was done in the previous performance review cycle. And over the years, because it is highly correlated to the performance of individual, the bumps and the raises, plus the performance bonuses and refresher grants at Facebook are going to be significantly higher than, let's say, at Amazon. While the starting salary may appear somewhat similar, maybe a little bit higher at Facebook, but over the years, it could be significantly higher. So some individuals, obviously in premium markets, at that level, they could be, getting to like 700, 800, maybe even $900,000 a year in terms of compensation. Right. So it's important to have whatever the offer components in a spreadsheet and kind of play around with some of the different numbers to see where you're going to land approximately, factoring the conversations that you have with your manager when you're starting, when the next evaluation cycle, whether you're going to be eligible for that performance review cycle or not, etc. And how close you are to the next level. But keep in mind, it's better to get hired at that next level and push yourself hard enough to meet the expectations at that level versus to get promoted into that level because the if you want obviously to get higher compensation because the promotion process could it's first of all it's very very formal and it's very very difficult to uh, get that promotion. um, at the interview, you are just spending what, like 6 hours, maybe a little more plus and minus with just a few individuals who are looking at your current sort of scope and impact, complexity, and what you've done and making that decision versus when you're being considered for promotion, there's going to be a lot more individuals looking at what you have accomplished up until that point. And for the higher level promotions, let's say from senior to principal, etc., it requires significant body of work. And it's very difficult to have significant body of work completed within like the first quarter or the first 6 months. It may require a year, maybe 2 years to make a significant impact or complete that um, body of work. So when a hiring manager tells you, oh, you're on a quick promotion path, it's important to understand the timelines. It could be quick relative to, let's say, overall trajectory. Maybe the typical promotion for an individual from, let's say, a level 5 to level 6 is like 3 years. And the manager's thinking, well, maybe like year and a half for you. Or for level 6 to level 7 could be 3 to 4 years, and he's thinking maybe like 2.5, 3 years, which may not be something that you're expecting. You may be thinking months, and the manager's thinking years, right? So have that alignment and understanding going into it, and then make sure that you kind of model this in Excel to understand what what the what components you want to negotiate. And again, so like I said, the common levers for negotiation is the base salary, the equity, and the signing bonus. But depending where you are in the band for that level, it may be difficult for you to negotiate, let's say, the base salary. The base salary is usually the most difficult because it's a public component that's required by law to be shared, and they may not necessarily want to adjust that, especially if you are at the top of the band. But signing bonus usually is the easiest one. For equity, depending on the budget and what the board of directors usually signs off on the plan for different equity components by level, maybe easy, maybe not. So it depends on how it is structured within the organization. Amazon, it's easier than I guess base salary if you're pushing base salary close to the top of the band, but it's a lot more difficult than, let's say, negotiating the signing bonus. So, and maybe, like I said, it's easier for you to have that additional conversation, maybe 2 or 3 conversations with somebody at the higher level to renegotiate the level that you're being hired on, assuming there's a budget for it and there's a position for it to fund it, then to renegotiate some of the components in your total compensation. So keep that in mind. Again, I did mention the pay transparency laws. A lot of the companies, because they have offices in one of those states, they just release those bans for the entire United States. And it's been like this for Amazon. It's been like this for the other company I worked for, which was much smaller than Amazon, but they still did it. Okay. We talked about the raises and bonuses and promotion timelines. It's important to understand that. When you're going to be considered for the promotion review, it's important to give you enough time to not be really close to that boundary where you consider versus not considered, and getting into the situation when you are considered, because usually it's like 3 months. So as opposed to just having that standard probation evaluation and getting the average rating, which is kind of like a, you know, fixed sort of rating in the promotion review cycle, you will be eligible for the full rating and full review, even though your time within the team, within the organization, could be a lot shorter. And for larger organizations, with especially tech organizations, where they have a lot of proprietary tools, a lot of proprietary processes, that learning curve, that ramp time could be significant. So the 3 months, after 3 months, you may not still be operating at 100% for the expectations are for that level. And so it's, if you are on that sort of cusp where, okay, in 2 weeks there's a cutoff, I would rather have you sort of delay that start time and get a standard sort of meets expectation rating at the performance review cycle, but then in the next time around you get a full review based on your full potential and full performance. Anyway, maybe it's going to delay some of the compensation bump, but at the same time, you just negotiate your offers. So, 3 months, it's not going to be that significant anyway. And then Amazon, if it's that close to a hire or to the start date, they're not going to be making changes to your compensation anyway. All right. So that's that. Um, if you have other offers, it's important, even if you are deciding to go with another company, it's important to have very graceful rejection, to keep those doors open, to keep the communication transparent and say, hey, while I really like your team, I decided to go with another company for X, Y, and Z reasons, and stay very professional to keep that relationship going for the future. Who knows? Maybe you don't like that team. After like a couple of months, you realize, well, that sucks, and it's nothing what they promised me or told me it's going to happen. You may go back to that other offering, the other hiring managers, see if they still have positions open. And a lot of the times, for big companies, they do, and they may just bring you in right away. Um, anyway, so keep that in mind. All right, and then obviously before agreeing to anything, have all the numbers in writing. First of all, it helps you kind of reason about the numbers more clearly, but also you have that on record for yourself, even if you have to maybe compare and contrast other offers, or if somebody asks you for proof that you have another offer, right? If they're trying to make a counter offer to bring into their organization, you may have to have that those numbers in. Yeah, review the final offer in detail, the fine prints, etc., understand all the components. It's very, very important. If you have any questions, it's better to kind of compile them all at once after going through the entire thing, and then ask the recruiter or HR, whoever you're working with, to get those answers. Hiring managers is going to be probably the best person who's going to be the most vested into bringing you into hers or his team, and they could probably be the ones who could move the ball rolling a lot quicker than anyone else. All right, so, and to kind of summarize everything, so key strategies. Obviously, it's very good when you have a competing offer on hand and you can compare and contrast different components, um, different projects, maybe different hiring managers, and how the conversations go, and maybe even pit them against each other. But do it in an ethical way, in a very professional, very transparent way, so that it doesn't feel like you're backstabbing one or the other. Use tools like levels.fyi to look at the numbers that are publicly disclosed and understand all of the offer components. There could be other things that could be important to you, right? Maybe it's relocation, maybe these other benefits like childcare or educational assistance for your family, for yourself, etc. So I look at all of those components that are in the offer, but typically those are not really negotiable. They're kind of set in stone as company policy, while these other ones are more flexible. And don't drag it around. Have a conversation, transparent. If you said that you're going to respond by this time, even if you don't have a decision, just tell them, like, when that time comes, like, hey, I've considered a few things, but I still haven't made my decision. I need a little bit more time, et cetera, or I have these additional questions, right? So that's pretty much it, and what I wanted to share with you guys. Again, if you have additional questions and you want to ask me, please sign up for our school community and ask those questions to me directly. If you want to have an individual help, I can also be available for additional fee to help you with that as well. All right, thanks so much, and have a great day.